Hello, welcome everyone to Petrosys webinars. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Karina Harvey and I will be moderating today's webinar. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and the recording will be available for viewing on our website in a couple of days. The presentation today will last about 15 to 20 minutes. To ensure the best audio quality, everyone is muted by default. So if you have any questions at any point during this presentation, please type them into the questions box. This is in the webinar control panel. All questions will be answered after this presentation. Today's webinar topic is making maps in Petrosys using ESRI data. I would like to welcome our presenter, our product manager from the Glasgow office, Mr. Ewan Rowe. And I'll pass it on to Ewan.
Thank you, Carolina. Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us today. We'll start with a few PowerPoint slides. This will be followed by a demo of displaying and editing data. We'll finish with a quick summary, followed by answering any questions. The main ESRI data types Petrosys supports are as follows. Feature classes storing point line and polygon data, and the supported data sources include shapefiles, file and personal geodatabases, ArcSTE, and ARC coverages. Rasters can be displayed directly from STE and ArcGIS server. Other rasters produced by ESRI such as bill files and non-proprietary formats like geotiffs can also be displayed directly, as can data served from a web map service. MXD and layer files can be brought into Petrosys and the data types and symbology will be matched if possible. And finally, I note that ARC 10.5 is supported with the current release version of Petrosys, which is version 17.8.4. The key functionality is the ability to directly display and edit GIS files. Shapes and annotation are displayed, the data can be filtered or thematically mapped, and translucency is available for rasters and shapes. Certain file types can also be created and edited within the Petrosys spatial editor. This applies to the shapes themselves and also to the attributes and coordinates. Before starting the demo, it's worth noting additional GIS file functionality in Petrosys. You can use point data from shapefiles, geodatabases and STE as gridding input. If you have polygon feature classes, they can also be used to define fault polygons during gridding or for clipping the grid. Our 3D viewer displays point data, and we have a plugin for ArcMap that allows Petrosys' own format of grids, contours and faults to be displayed directly without needing to export them into ESRI formats. Petrosys can also be used to take grids and point line and polygon features from interpretation systems and convert them into ESRI formats, and that doesn't require the Arc plugin. Petrosys can be used to publish maps to a web map service or geotiffs for consumption in ArcMap. And there are also some additional options to buffer around shapes, back interpolate from grids into shapefiles, and so forth. This functionality will not be covered in this demo. For the demo today, we're going to use data from the Norwegian Petroleum Directorate. And I'm starting off with a typical Petrosys map here. It's got a scale bar, title block, good coordinate annotation, and a dynamic location map. Just to save time, we've already displayed some GIS data types, and you can see in the background that we've got a high resolution image. This image is coming from ArcGIS server. This is new functionality in version 17.8. We previously supported WMS. Now you can also have tiled web map services in ArcGIS server. If we feel the image is too overpowering, we can reduce the translucency just to make the other features stand out a little bit better. It will just take a moment to refresh. It's going over a live connection, and to speed things up later on, I'll switch this layer off. Typical ways to display GIS data are from the Petrosys display menu. The most common option is display GIS. A new option in 17.8 is a specific option for displaying web map services, and that's where we got the ArcGIS server. We can also display the layer and MXD files here. And an additional option worth mentioning is display picture raster image. This is where you get access to files like BIL files, geotiffs, JPEG 2000 and other good quality images that you might get out of ArcMap. Importantly, it's also where you get access to rasters coming from ArcSDE. The next layer we have displayed here is a file geodatabase. Those are the pink features in the map, and these are facilities. So you can see here that we've got a range of different types of feature class showing us the number of features within each of those. An important point to note here is that the coordinate reference system's ED50 UTM zone 32. Now if I have a look at the map, the projection is UTM zone 31. If you've got any GIS information that stores the coordinate reference system, you can always be confident that Petrosys will correctly convert it to the coordinate system of the map sheet you're working with. Just a quick look at the other data sources available in here. You can see this is where we get access to our ARC coverages, our personal and file geodatabases, and probably most importantly the shapefiles, also the SDE point line and polygon feature classes. The last item I'm going to look at here, we'll get rid of the facilities too. The last item I'm going to look at are the well symbols that are displayed. So this is coming from a shapefile of well bores. A few more things to say about this display panel. You can see in the feature classes it shows you all the attributes that appear in the shapefile, and also a little bit of information about the coordinate system. This is a geographic shapefile, it doesn't have any projected coordinates in it. But what I want to highlight here is the thematic mapping. The NPD has got strict rules about what well symbol should apply to the different status of wells, and they have an attribute called plot symbol with a symbol number in it. So if you spend a little bit of time setting up thematic mapping rules, it's not just for one map. You can export these out to an XML file and use them in different projects, or an alternative approach would be to save this map as a master map and then just merge it into different Petrosys projects on your site. We're now going to move on and display some license block data. This time I'm going to use the display any data option, which lets you take groups of files and just display them at one time. It's a very useful option for bringing in things like groups of shapefiles. However, I'm going to go across to our location for storing our NPD data. You can see the different file types that are available here, all the spatial formats, but I'm going to go for a layer file. And we'll take this file here, which is the production licenses. Now this is going to take a few seconds to display. What's happening is that Petrosys is calling an ArcMap license. It will display the feature type directly, and then it will try and convert the symbology from a layer file in this case, or from an MXD, into a Petrosys proprietary format that you can use in future without having to have any need to access the ARC license. This option can also be run in surface modelling in batch mode, so if you have a lot of these files to convert, you can do it without waiting for this stage to happen. What we're going to do is imagine that we're only interested in the active production licenses for the company Statoil, and just over the area of interest that's shown over here in the location map. We'll just give it a few seconds more and the shapes should appear. There we go. So we'll start to edit what we've got displayed here. I'm not really interested in the production license numbers, so let's have a look at the annotation options. You can annotate by any of the attributes, and you can choose as many of those attributes as you want to. You've also got a range of 9 different places where you can post your labels, and if you did have any overposting, you can use overpost correction in Petrosys just to hide labels, move them, change the size, make everything exactly as you want. In this case, I'm not really interested in the annotation, so I'm just going to switch that off and hit apply to see how things change. What I do want to do is some filtering, and I'm going to apply a multi-level filter. You can have as many levels of filter as you want to. I always use standard filtering, and the first thing I'm going to do is filter on the status. So we'll scan the attribute and see what values are available, and we'll choose active. And you should see when I apply that some of the license blocks disappear. We've got some more holes in there. Now we've not really looked to see which license blocks are operated by Statoil and which are operated by other people. I'm just going to switch off applicability for a few of the other layers, and then we'll query it on the map, so you can also query your GIST sources directly. And to do that, you just select a block with the left mouse button, hold down the right mouse button and choose Query Attributes. And you can build up a little table here just showing you who operates which blocks. So we can see here that orange seems to be the Statoil blocks. These are the ones we're going to expect to see when we do the next stage of filtering. I'm now going to filter by operator name. And when I scroll down the list, we'll see that Statoil actually appears with several different names. It's had different entities at one time or another. So we'll just select all of these and hit OK. And we should only see the Statoil blocks displayed in our map. Now I don't want to make any edits to my original NPD shapefile, but I do want to save just these individual shapes in just over this area of interest, because I may want to load this file into something else, load it into Petrel, or I might just want a smaller dataset to work with for performance issues. So we can use the Petrosys Spatial Data Translator. Again, just select what's currently selected, choose Export Spatial Data. We could write into a variety of different sources in here, but I'm going to create a new shapefile, just going to have it as a geographic shapefile, and we'll call it Statoil Active. So we've written these license blocks into a new file. I'm going to switch off the original NPD file. And what we'll do now is we'll take a look at doing some editing. To do this, we use the Spatial Editor. Those of you familiar with editing contours and faults in Petrosys already know about this tool. You can also use it for editing and creating GIS files. So as you can see in the data sources here, we've got shapefiles and geodatabases. You need to set up the coordinate reference system, and then you can define what type of shape it's going to be and what attributes you want to have. Rather than doing this from the start, I'm going to work with the shapefile that we've just created. Another way that you can display your shapefile is by opening Windows Explorer and just dragging and dropping it into the Petrosys map window. Now we've got the shapes displayed, we can drag these into the Spatial Editor for editing. Now over on the right hand side you'll see several data tables by using this icon to switch them on. In the top right we've got the individual shapes listed, and if I click in any of these you can see the attributes and also the coordinates for each shape. The first thing I'm going to do is to edit the attributes that we have. To do this we go to Layers Definition, and I'm going to remove the operator attributes, as we know that the operator for all these production licenses is Statoil. I'm also going to add in some additional attributes. So we'll add in a source. This will be a text attribute. We'll add in a created date. And finally we'll add in what quad each of these production licenses falls in, and we'll make this an integer. So you can see these new attributes now appear in our attribute list, but they're not populated. If we want to populate all the shapes, just do a select all, and if we go to the source, I'll put in my own name as the source, and for the date we can pick from little table. We'll just choose today's date, the 23rd of February. And now if we look at each of these shapes, you can see that these attributes are populated for all of them. Now we've got different quads displayed here. Each of these blocks is a quad in Norway. So I don't want to do this for all of them. I could pick individual features here, or else I can just drag a box over all the production licenses in quad 35 and enter my quad number into those. And again, you can see this one's quad 35. This one over here is not populated yet. So it's really easy to manage your attribute data for your shape. shapefiles and geodatabases. The next thing I'm going to do is digitize in a new shape, and I'm just going to put in a new block in this area here, so we'll zoom in a little bit. The other thing I'm going to do is I'll drag the quads shapefile into the spatial editor. We'll also use that. Just drag it down to the bottom of the list here so we can see our shapes highlighted. So to digitize a new block, we've got a range of different tools here. I'm going to choose the pencil tool for digitizing. And I can do various types of snapping here. I can snap to shapes or trace outlines. I'm going to snap to vertex, and I'll just pick a point here, move up to this corner here, over to the quad boundary, somewhere around about here I want to have a point, back onto my production license, and just double click to finish. And I've just put that into the quads group, which is not what I wanted to do, but that's okay. We'll just pick it up in the quads group and delete it, and this time I'll digitize it into the actual production license group. So you can see it is very easy to do edits in here, to make things, to delete things if you do have any problems. Come down here, over we go, and a double click to close. Now the last thing I want to highlight here is that if we have a look at this shape, because we are snapping to the quads shape in the background, we've got well-rounded coordinates. But this coordinate here, we didn't have a vertex to snap onto, and this one's actually wrong. We just want to round that off to 614500. So if you do have a particular point that you want to swap onto, or you actually want to type in the coordinates, it's really easy to do that part as well. So there are many more tools for editing shapes, but hopefully you've seen how easy it is to create shapes, edit the attributes, and edit the coordinates. And that concludes the demo. So, in summary, a key advantage of mapping in Petrosys is the ability to combine GIS data with interpretation data, with everything coming directly from source. This greatly reduces data duplication and version control problems. Shapefiles and geodatabases can be easily created and edited within Petrosys, making it quick and easy to make geoscience data available to GIS departments, or to make any edits required to files received. Many raster types are displayed directly. Others, like digital elevation model formats, can be imported into Petrosys grids if required. And there are many options to control what data is displayed and how, allowing users to communicate exactly what they want to with their map. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar and found it useful. We'll just have a look at the question log to see if anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much, Ewan, for this presentation. We've got a couple of questions here, actually. First one is, do we need an ESRI plugin to perform all those editing functions?
No, you don't. That's a very good question. You don't need the ESRI plugin for anything I've shown you in this demonstration at all. It's specifically just to display Petrosys grids, contours and faults within ArcMap. Everything we've seen in here today just requires the Petrosys Suite base license. The only other license you would ever need would be the ArcMap license at the time of converting a layer or MXD file.
Thank you very much for answering this question. We've got one more question here. Can I only filter by attributes, or can I also filter by area of interest? This is, I think, regarding displaying shapefiles.
So yes, you can also filter by area of interest, so either by setting a map sheet area of interest which will define which shapes are displayed, or alternatively if you want to write your shapes into another application such as Petrel, you can do that through Petrosys surface modelling, and you can choose a Petrosys map sheet, which is an area of interest, to filter by area while you're writing those shapes into another application or saving them to a new file geodatabase or shapefile.
Thank you very much. And one more question. Does this work on all Petrosys versions, or do I need a specific version of Petrosys for this?
There are a few new features that we've shown in here, so things like using the ArcGIS server is only available in version 17.8, and also 17.84 supports ARC 10.5. Most of the other functionality is available throughout the Petrosys 17.8 release stream. I'm sure I've shown you a few things which possibly aren't available in 17.7. So if you're not running 17.8, I would encourage you to get in touch with our support and get a copy as soon as possible.
Right, thank you very much. For the moment, there are no more questions. Anyone else would like to ask a question? Remember that you can always email us in support at support@petrosys.com.au. You can also give us a call if you have any question after this presentation. Unless at the moment there are no more questions, I think we can finish for today. Thank you very much for the presentation, Ewan. Thank you very much all for joining this webinar today and for your attention. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.